There is a factory in China right now where humanoid robots are assembling humanoid robots. Not prototypes, not demos for a tech conference. Production units, shipping by the thousands. The same country that makes your phone and your shoes just figured out how to mass produce the workers themselves. And the West never saw it coming. This is not one company. It is not one model. It is an industrial shift happening at a scale America said was physically impossible. Boston Dynamics spent decades perfecting a robot that can do a backflip. China spent 2 years perfecting a robot you can buy. The visual everyone remembers is the one that went viral in 2023. A humanoid robot in a Chinese factory doing a backflip, stumbling, catching itself. Comments flooded in. People laughed. Another gimmick. Another demo that would never ship. Except 6 months later, that company shipped 10,000 units. And the West is still building demos. The gap is not in the technology. The gap is in what China decided to do with it. While Boston Dynamics was charging 7 figures for a research platform, a company called Unitree was pricing functional humanoids at the cost of a used car. Real units. Walking, lifting, working. This is where the story splits. In the West, humanoid robots are moonshots. Billion-dollar R&D budgets. Decades of refinement. Tesla's Optimus is a vision. Boston Dynamics is art. They are building the perfect machine. China looked at the same problem and asked a different question. What if we skip perfect and ship functional? What if instead of one flawless robot we build 10,000 decent ones? What if the end game is not the demo but the assembly line? The country that turned electric vehicles into a commodity is doing the exact same thing to humanoid robots. And it is happening faster than anyone predicted. The name to remember is Unitree, founded in Hangzhou, started making quadruped robots, the dog-shaped ones. Then in 2023, they unveiled the G1, a humanoid, full articulation, 43 degrees of freedom, height adjustable from 4'3" to 5'9", and the price was $16,000. That is not a typo. Boston Dynamics quoted $1 million for Atlas. Tesla has not shipped Optimus. Unitree is delivering functional humanoids for the price of a Honda Civic. And they are not alone. UB Tech, Fourier Intelligence, X Robots, a dozen companies you have never heard of are flooding the market. Before we go further, if you want to know where the world is shifting before the headlines catch up, hit like and subscribe. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. We cover the stories that reshape industries, while everyone else is still writing the press release. Now back to the robots. The numbers are staggering. Unitree alone shipped over 10,000 humanoid units in 2024. UB Tech delivered thousands more into factories and logistics hubs. These are not research platforms sitting in labs. They are working machines, lifting boxes, sorting inventory, patrolling facilities. The gap between announcement and deployment is measured in months, not years. Here is what makes this different. Western robotics companies are trying to build the ultimate machine, one robot that can do everything perfectly. China is building specialists, a robot for warehouses, a robot for factories, a robot for inspection, each one optimized for cost and function, not elegance. The Unitree H1 can sprint at over 7 miles per hour. The G1 can crouch low and reach high. UB Tech's Walker series navigates uneven terrain. These are not general-purpose androids. They are industrial tools designed for mass deployment. And the Chinese government is backing them with subsidies and mandates. The subsidy structure is deliberate. Beijing declared robotics a strategic industry in its 14th five-year plan. Local governments offer tax breaks. Manufacturers get grants for automation upgrades. Companies that deploy humanoid robots receive credits. The entire system is designed to create demand and accelerate adoption. It is the same playbook that turned China into the electric vehicle capital of the world. Flood the market, drive down costs, build an ecosystem so large that foreign competitors cannot catch up. And it is working. By the end of 2024, Chinese factories were deploying humanoid robots at a rate the West is not even attempting. Walk into a Geely auto plant in Ningbo and you will see them. Humanoid robots moving parts between stations. Not wheeled AGVs, not fixed robotic arms. Bipedal machines that can navigate the same spaces as human workers. They climb stairs, they open doors, they adjust to layout changes without reprogramming the entire factory. This is the advantage everyone missed. A humanoid form factor is not about mimicking people. It is about fitting into infrastructure designed for people. Every factory floor, every warehouse aisle, every doorway and staircase was built for a bipedal worker. The humanoid robot does not require you to redesign the world. It fits the world you already have. That realization is driving adoption faster than the technology itself. JD.com, one of China's largest e-commerce companies, deployed humanoid robots in its logistics centers. They sort packages, they load trucks, they work 24-hour shifts without breaks. Foxconn, the manufacturer that assembles iPhones, is testing humanoids on assembly lines. The goal is not to replace every worker. It is to fill the gaps. China's working-age population is shrinking. Wages are rising. The factory of the world is running out of cheap labor. Humanoid robots are the answer to a demographic crisis, and they are arriving at exactly the right price point to make economic sense. This is where the West miscalculated. American robotics companies focused on capability. Chinese companies focused on cost. The entire supply chain advantage that made China the manufacturing hub of the world is now applied to the robots themselves. The motors, the actuators, the batteries, the sensors. Every component is sourced domestically. There is no dependency on foreign suppliers, no tariffs, no shipping delays. A servo motor that costs $200 from a German supplier costs $30 from a factory in Guangdong. Multiply that across 43 joints, and the price gap becomes insurmountable. The West cannot compete because it does not control the supply chain. Take the Unitree G1 apart and you see the advantage. The actuators are made by a company in Shenzhen that also supplies drones and electric scooters. The battery pack uses cattle cells, the same supplier that powers half the electric vehicles in China. The vision system runs on chips from a domestic semiconductor maker. The entire robot is an exercise in vertical integration. And because the factories that make the components are already producing millions of units for other industries, the economies of scale are immediate. There is no ramp-up period, no tooling costs. The infrastructure was already there. China just pointed it at a new product. Compare that to the American approach. Tesla is building Optimus from scratch. Every component is custom. Every supplier relationship is new. Boston Dynamics spent 20 years perfecting hydraulic systems that are expensive and complex. The entire Western robotics industry is structured around low-volume, high-margin products, research platforms, military contracts, specialty applications. No one optimized for mass production because no one believed the demand existed. China created the demand by making the robots cheap enough to be disposable. If a Unitree G1 breaks, you replace it. The unit cost is low enough that repairs do not make economic sense. That is a fundamentally different business model, and it only works at scale. The West is waking up, but late. In 2024, the Pentagon announced funding for domestic humanoid robotics research. The European Union launched a robotics initiative. Both are structured as long-term R&D programs. China is past the R&D phase. They are in the deployment phase. The robots are already working. By the time Western prototypes are ready for pilot programs, Chinese factories will have deployed tens of thousands of units and iterated through multiple generations. The learning curve advantage is compounding. Every deployed robot generates data. Every failure gets logged and fixed in the next production run. China is not building a better robot. They are building a better feedback loop. This is the pattern repeating. Solar panels, batteries, electric vehicles, high-speed rail. In every case, the West invented the technology and China commercialized it at scale. Humanoid robots are following the same trajectory. The research came from MIT, Boston Dynamics, Stanford. The product is coming from Hangzhou and Shenzhen. And once the production infrastructure is in place, the gap becomes nearly impossible to close. You cannot outcompete a supply chain that has a 10-year head start and government backing. You cannot undercut prices when your components cost 3 times as much. The only question now is how long it takes the rest of the world to realize the game is already over. So what happens next? The humanoid robot stops being exotic. It becomes infrastructure. Just another piece of capital equipment, like a forklift or a conveyor belt. Chinese factories will have thousands of them within 5 years. Warehouses, hospitals, restaurants, security. Every sector that relies on repetitive physical labor will deploy them because the economics make sense. And the West will be stuck in the same position it found itself in with electric vehicles, playing catch-up on a technology it pioneered, unable to compete on cost, watching the entire market shift east. The country that manufactures the world just figured out how to manufacture the workers. That is not a headline. That is a turning point. The farmer's son who borrowed $3,000 and got laughed at just built the most efficient engine in history. The factory worker who assembled phones for $1 an hour now works alongside a robot that costs less than a year of wages. The future of manufacturing was not decided in Detroit or Boston. It was decided in Hangzhou and Shenzhen, and the world is still catching up to what just happened. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The next story out of China makes this look small. And drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And would you trust a humanoid robot in your workplace? We read every one.